Smitherman, the founder of the Tulsa Star and one of the co-founders of Black Wall Street. He was indicted for inciting what they wanted to call a riot, which we now know was a massacre. He did not indict that. He did not incite that riot. There was not a riot. There was a preconceived massacre that occurred. And fortunately, our family escaped with their lives from a burning house that had been set on fire by the mob, who literally came into our family's house while they were hiding in the basement. Not our great-grandfather, who was out fighting the riot, but my big mommy and her family, our grandmother and her children had to literally escape a flaming, burning building of their house, and everything that we had as a family was destroyed in the massacre. So we are here to represent, not only to commemorate the people who lost their lives during the massacre, but also to represent and to celebrate what had been built before that, which was Black Wall Street, which is something that we all need to recognize as one of the biggest feats in Black history.
Now you gotta let everybody know what your name is. See, you forgot that part. You just went right into it.
It's not about me.
She just went right into it. But you still gotta tell everybody what your name is.
Okay. My name is Raven Magia Williams, and I'm the great-granddaughter of A.J. Smitherman. And this is my cousin,
Seth Bryant.
Pass the mic. Pass the mic.
I'm Montique Williams.
My name is Marshall Taylor Fenty.
So I'll start with you, and then we'll bring the mic back down this way. What does all of this mean? Being here, seeing this, but also seeing the folks here still demanding this city and this state atone for what happened 100 years ago.
Absolutely. And for me, it's important to be here, to really step into this history and feel what it feels like, and just kind of take it in and vibrate with this history that's going on here. And to also just kind of represent the displacement that our family has had as a result of what happened. And it's a beautiful thing, honestly, to see all these people out here, like-minded, just trying to be together right now.
One of the things that folks keep saying is that we're literally standing on a crime scene. We're standing on a sacred place where black blood was spilled.
You know, I think we have a lot of that across this country, but I think what's special about this place is that it was built by people who saw a collective vision for their families, and they wanted something better for their families. And they built it. They didn't talk about it. They built it. And then that was taken from them. That was robbed of them. And so what's different, I think, here is that, you know, we're back, right? And we're trying to make it right. And we hope others will join us in trying to, as you said, atone for what happened, what occurred. And I think sometimes you hurt somebody, if you don't acknowledge it and say you're sorry and mean it and move on, it's very hard for that relationship to be healed. And what we want to do is be a part of the healing.
So I ask you, the city is going to be dedicating the museum in Greenwood Rising on Wednesday. There are a lot of differing viewpoints. There are some African Americans who say they will never step foot in that museum because they feel as if the city, by building the museum, they think that's enough. And folks say that's simply not enough for the descendants like yourself and for the 3 remaining survivors.
I wholly agree with the community residents who feel that way. I think that, you know, as we have been coming closer to this time, you know, we've been hearing a tension between the community and, you know, those that are profiting from what's happened. And it is, you know, it's despicable, frankly. I think that what happened here is a known atrocity on the scale of the Holocaust in terms of devastation and just a total genocide of a community. And so you have to, as my cousin was saying, repair that. And offering up a museum as the recompense falls way short. The museum should stand, they should remember, but that should be the very first thing, and repairing the people that were harmed, the generations who lost everything. Our great-grandfather lost his business, burned to the ground. He lost his home, had to flee as a wanted man, and so he never got a penny for that. And we're not here to be grabby about, a money bag or anything like that. The principle of the matter is so profound and strong that you just have to repair the situation by some actual demonstration of not just remorse, but responsibility and making that community whole.
And as a descendant, not only losing possessions and losing home and losing businesses, this city refused. I mean, the local newspaper did not print a word of it for 50 years. So the folks here, talking about happening in 1921, that means that it wasn't until the 70s where they even talked about it. They acted as if it didn't even exist. I think that's even worse. That's even worse than just the massacre itself. To then completely obliterate it as if these people never even existed. It never happened, as if just no big deal.
So it's been a 7-year discovery on my part of digging up the truth of this story. And in my research, I found that there was a absolute intentional committee that hid it from history. Their job was to hide the massacre from history, to make sure it wasn't in the schools, taught in the schools, to make sure that people thought maybe 20 people died when we know that it was over 300 people that died, to literally cover up this genocide, as my cousin called it. This is a Holocaust that happened in Oklahoma, and it has been intentionally covered up. And the saddest part to me is not just the covering up of the largest government-sanctioned massacre on American citizens in the country's history, but we didn't even know the legacy of Black Wall Street and the powerful people that built this community. People talk about pulling yourself up from bootstraps. We didn't have boots. We got our boots from the West Indies, Africans that literally West Indians loaned Black people in this town money to build it out. That's history that people don't know. People ask us, well, how come you haven't pulled yourself up from your bootstraps like other immigrant groups? Well, we weren't immigrants. We came from slavery. There's the post-traumatic stress.
But also, those boots were burned.
Absolutely. Well, I mean,
they were destroyed.
Yeah. But we didn't even have boots. We built boots from thin air and pulled ourselves out of those boots that we built. We weren't given our 40 acres and a mule, and we weren't given anything. We were not given what immigrants were given. And there were so many myths associated with what made Black Wall Street. Even to this day, some people think it's land that they were given. No, they weren't immigrants. These Black people weren't given land in Oklahoma. They came from other places. O.W. Gurley, J.B. Stratford, they came from other places in America and bought land, and they just only sold that land to Black people, and that's how Greenwood was built. So there are so many myths that need to be dispelled about our people, and, there's just not the understanding of knowing that we not only pulled ourselves out of the ashes, but they put us back in the ashes 100 years ago.
Well, we appreciate it.
And here we are today, though, to remember and to say that, listen, we're here and we want to, participate with this community, and, the generations keep going. And here we are to reflect that.
All right. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Roland.
All right. Thanks a bunch. Mustafa, there are a lot powerful stories, what we just heard. And I don't think anyone who is watching this and listening to this is unmoved by any of these.
Well, there are stories of survival. Of course, there's the trauma and the tragedy that is a part of the impacts that we continue to have to deal with, whether they're in Tulsa or in Rosewood or in East St. Louis in Illinois, or Elaine, Arkansas, or a number of the other locations that are a part of the Red Summer. But we also understand that if we are given the opportunity to rebuild our communities, not with things that, that we deserve to have the resources to be able to make our communities whole. We deserve the opportunity to make sure that our communities thrive. And both the federal government, the state government, the city government there in Tulsa, along with those corporations that may still be around that made money, those insurance companies or the subsidiaries that came into being afterwards, all have to play a role in the restitution and the reparations that are due to this community to allow them to be whole.
Brittany, and again, I've talked to so many people, and we've talked to folks who are natives here. And when you talk to someone here who's black, who's from here, and they say, we were born and raised here, went to school here, and we never even knew this existed.
Yeah, Roland. I'm not surprised, right? That's the United States game, is to purposely omit information. It's as if they do us two forms of harm. They literally and materially remove things from us, kill us, brutalize us. And then they also try and erase our memory of those things. It's a shame, and it's part of a larger narrative and attempt by the U.S. government to ensure that our community and the larger community doesn't know the atrocities that they've committed on a federal level, on state levels, and continue to commit as they fail to give us reparations and true acknowledgement for the damage that they've done and allowed to be done to us.
Michael.
Brother, thanks for that interview, brother, with the Descendants. That was powerful, what the sister just dropped on us, and the brothers as well. Dr. Tiffany Crutcher talked about having grown up there, and the twin sister of Terrence Crutcher, who was killed by Betty Shelby there in Tulsa, a police officer. Dr. Tiffany Crutcher talked about growing up in Tulsa and not knowing about Black Wall Street and the Tulsa Massacre until she went to college. And she said, people asked her, where are you from? She said, Tulsa. She said, oh, that's what Black Wall Street was. And then in talking to her family about it, she found out, I think it was her great-grandmother, something like that, was a survivor of the Tulsa Massacre, okay? And they didn't know about it. So it was a concerted effort not to teach this history, but at the same time, brother, this ties once again into the history with Native Americans and Creek Indians. Because, see, the Creek Indians, and you interviewed the sister yesterday that talked about this. She's of Creek ancestry, Black Creek ancestry. The Creek Indians kicked a lot of the descendants of the Black freedmen out of the Creek Indian Nation and took their land that their ancestors got through the Black Freedmen Indian Treaties of 1866. All this is connected. Okay, so we really have to deal with this history, man, and tell the truth, and then have the reparations to repair the damage. It's not about a check; it's about repairing the damage that was done, and we still feel the effects of the damage today.
Folks, back to that Roland Martin unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.